Namaste. Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome. My name is Sadhana. I am an intuitive reader, healer, and today is Friday. So I am here with my regular Friday tarot chat. And this is a day where you are welcome to join in the conversation while we look at decks and cards and different ways that we can work with the tarot. I'm just going to open another window here so I can talk with all of you. So thank you very much for being a part of this conversation today. And I believe it was 2 weeks ago, we began this conversation with the topic of tarot affirmations. And while the tarot is often used to answer questions, for self-inquiry, for weekly, daily inspiration, I think that one of the most untapped and very accessible ways to use the tarot is by the use of tarot affirmations. And 2 weeks ago, we sat together and we went through several cards, and everybody participated and wrote some really beautiful, poetic, and self-affirming statements about the cards that we were discussing. And so today we're going to do more of the same. And I have a selection of cards on the table here meant to inspire. I have several cards from different decks that I will talk a little bit about what it is in these cards that inspires me. And then I will encourage you to participate and to do a little bit of writing yourself if you have access to the chat as well too. And I want to thank everybody 2 weeks ago who participated as well and contributed affirmations in the comments below later. So that was really beautiful, and I felt very inspired by your work. And I want you to know that this is indeed a very personal process. Much like I shared with you my most recent tarot project where I combined Soul Cards 1 and Soul Cards 2, and I took those 120 cards and put them into a tarot deck. Much like that exercise, this is very personal. And when I do this as a daily draw or as a weekly draw, sometimes I do this as a practice as well too. So I might do it for 2 weeks at a time. The cards are drawn randomly, so I'm not generally selecting cards from the deck, from any particular deck. However, this is a really beautiful exercise you can also do with friends, clients, with people that you're sitting down with who may be struggling with something or another, and a particular card might come to mind. And I don't think there's anything wrong with choosing a card as a focus of conversation, because sometimes that can be of tremendous comfort to people as well too. So before we get to our first affirmation, I just want to say hi to everybody who's here so far today. Welcome to Sharon and Mira. Lovely to have you here. Hello to Donna and Lydianne, Hannah and Saskia. Welcome. And Dee is our resident poet. Actually, many of you are, but I'm always a little bit in awe of Dee's beautiful poetry. And who else is here today? As you come in, I will do my best to greet you. And let's get to some cards. Let's do this. I can make myself little. So I thought today we would start with this really interesting Four of Fire from the Gaian Tarot by Joanna Powell Colbert. And this is, I want to call it a shamanic based deck. It is full of practices, it is full of connection. And in this particular four of fire, we see orange candles. We see that the protagonist in the center is dressed in orange. They have a powerful symbol in the center of their chest. And here I feel this figure in the center deeply connected to the element of fire. And through their connection with the element of fire, feeling empowered. Now, what is it about fours? Fours represent and give us a sense of foundation. They give us a sense of security. They give us something from which to grow and to expand. And I thinking about some of the Euclidean decks, Euclidean geometry, when we look at the sevens and we see that a seven is indeed a 3 on top of a 4, and what that might represent. Well, this to me, these cards are an important part of one's foundation. And it is from the strength of this fire that we are able to create. We are able to move, feel, expand. And I suppose, one of my deepest connections with this suit has to do with Dharma. I've read a lot of different books, done a lot of teaching about Dharma and life path. And this is a really important card in the journey. Lydia Ann says that Four of Wands is her correspondence to hearth and to home. And so from a sense of security, feeling safe at home, we are able to move. Okay. So what is it? Hello, Patricia. What is it about what is it about that solidity of the Four of Fire that is so very inspiring? It is. And this, if you also look in the back of this particular Four of Wands, there's a community parade going on. This deck is really something, the way that it integrates the background and the foreground. And perhaps that is something that you want to contemplate in each of these cards. And that is not only the element of fire we see in the foreground or the sense of action in the foreground, but what is it about the whole picture that gives you something inspirational from which to bloom? And I think this is a great affirmation to start with today. A reminder. So this is also a reminder of how important it is to create foundation. Right? The without foundation, we cannot grow, we cannot blossom. So let's go to this is Hannah, Dancing Soul Sister. I tend my space with all my passion as a foundation to go forward. I'm also, thank you for that, Hannah. I am also struck by the importance of the bare feet in the card on the left. This reminds me a little bit of the Queen of Fire in this deck, where she actually has her feet in the fire. And so what is it about that level of solidity, the connection of the bare feet on the ground, that helps to build that? My security is also based on tradition. My security is firmly based on tradition. And as I look at all of these cards, one of the things that comes to mind is how generations, family members come together in this season to create. So it's not uncommon in the fall to see multiple generations of a family working together in the kitchen, preserving the bounty from the garden. It makes me very happy when traditions or recipes, even recipes, are carried on as inspirational foundations of a family. So I could even see this Four of Wands being as tangible an item as a recipe that has created connection among families, creating rituals and roots so that we can grow and blossom. In my home, says Lydiane, the roof is open to the sky, and the unknown hosts enter and be safe in the arms of its walls. That is really beautiful, because often, when we are reflecting on the fours, there can be a fear of the container. The four does represent a container and a containment. So let's talk about this just for a moment. So if the Four of Wands represents the containment of fire, why might we need to contain the fire? And immediately for me, what comes to mind is so that we can direct that energy to a higher potential, rather than having the energy of the fire all scattered, right? So the creative energy of several generations of women gather to create the preserves for the winter, focusing their energy and continuing to develop ritual and tradition through years. And I really enjoy having these conversations with myself and this exercise such as today, because if we are reading the tarot quickly, what tends to happen is that we go to familiar and favorite keywords, but slowing it down a little bit and looking and listening to these conversations and other people's reflections can be very powerful. Dee offers, my mother-in-law passed her heritage to her son and her grandson. Right? These are so beautiful, these traditions. Mira says, my boundaries are secure and I can rest and release my worries. And so in passing down these traditions, as Mira said, so in passing down these traditions, there is less to worry about because we know upon what we may rely. It's very, very beautiful. Hello, Ijeoma. Welcome. All right. Shall we do another? Okay. This is always a striking figure in the tarot. And sometimes the Queen of Swords gets a very bad rap. as the lonely woman, the bitch, the divorcee, the widow. Yet she is so very strong and has survived so much. And I feel that with this particular card, one of the levels of respect that is due is one of, and this is sometimes this is a hard time to wrap language around, especially when this is a suit that is based in language and based in words, is that this is a human who has gone beyond book knowledge, gone beyond studying. This is so much more than having degrees, university degrees. And when I think about the Knight of Swords, this might be someone who could be a perpetual student, multiple degrees. But this figure has integrated all of those years of knowledge into wisdom. And through this deep level of connection, has amplified their connection with spirit. So incredibly power. And Elizabeth says, I stand in my power. And let's remember that this power is one of authenticity. I fearlessly stand in my authenticity. And this, for me, is an affirmation that is so very important. I want to say on a near daily basis. People, can you say patriarchy, have always labeled strong, intelligent, outspoken women as bitches. Yeah. And I have been called a bitch or worse on more than one occasion. And that is because I fearlessly stand in my authenticity. Donna says, so therefore I am strong, intelligent, and speak my truth freely. I feel as if also there is another component to this, and that has to do with the inner knowing. There is no gap between what we know and what we believe. It feels so powerful. Beautiful. Thank you for your reflections, Mira. And she too is also offering a very powerful offering as mentor, as role model for younger souls who have yet to find their authenticity. D. I relate to her, and I'm none of these archetypes except a ferocious woman speaking my truth. Beautiful. Elizabeth, I listen and voice my thoughts without fear. I hope you are writing these down in your journals. These are just beautiful. Lydiane, I defy anyone who encroaches on my flower beds. This is funny. And you know what? Having a sense of humor is also a very, very important part of this process. The more I experience life, the less I fear. She does. She has an aspect of the crone. So there is a, um, and it has to do with the wisdom. And I've had this very interesting conversation with people before, looking at the tarot. And maybe this is a topic I should write down, where we look at maiden, mother, and crone, and all the ways that that appears in the tarot. In which cards we see the maiden, mother, and the crone. And I know we had this discussion when we were talking about when I did the deep dive of the Margaret Peterson tarot. That was something that Margaret had brought up in her guidebook, and I had expanded on a little bit, but definitely a deep conversation to have. Donna, yes, in their ability to create life. All right. So I don't think we can deny. And I'm interested as well too. Joel's not here. Some of our regular Joseph's not here. I'm interested also from can I say a male perspective, somebody who identifies masculine, not necessarily a guy, who. Okay, so here's something. So this would also. So what comes to mind now is the popularity of a woman such as Cher. And I don't know if you understand what I'm saying here, but there are certain figures that have claimed, there's a good verb, they have claimed their truth. They have claimed their strength, right? And in her case, she's claimed her body. Yes, it has been, altered by man, but there's something here about claiming one's truth. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to leave that conversation could go sideways. Wow. Now this is a very, very important. Only women bleed. Men hate not understanding blood. Yes, I completely agree with you. And I think I think that's enough said. We could talk about this card for a long time, couldn't we? All right, I'm going to go on. And we're going to stay in the Suit of Swords. This is another card, and this is the Nine of Swords. Marielle, this is Gaian. This is Numinous. And I want to share with you something I have spoken to before. And let's remember that this is a card of completion. This is a 9. 9s to me are so divinely guided. And when we are in a 9 of Swords moment, I feel as if the veil is very, very thin. And there is a tremendous amount of fear about that veil dropping. Now, whether that's conscious or not, I think is another thing. To call this simply the nightmare card is to, I think, give it a tremendous amount of disservice, because if we are able, and this is a very kind of yogic thing, right? So part of the process of yoga is to learn to calm the mind, to still the vrittis they're referred to. We want, the practice of yoga is instilling the mind. And to me, this is the ultimate card of, if we persevere and are indeed able to still the mind, what is it that we may be able to hear or to see? I'm loving these last few comments here about the blood, by the way. And I do have to say that I had so wished the Blood Moon Tarot was about this particular issue, and not what it was. I want a tarot deck to help navigate this. Okay, so this is where I am with this particular card, and that has to do with having the courage to stay one moment longer. Hi, Janet, welcome. So when you look at the card in the center, what could you affirm so that you would stay one moment longer, and perhaps in enduring the noise for one moment longer, something would come through. There would be a breakthrough moment. And yes, Dee is quite right. This particular Nine of Swords has been transformational in my life. Highly, highly transformational. And you can see that we are, like, this is like a veil between worlds. And in this Nine of Swords, we see the White Tower, we see the Dark Tower, we have the water in the foreground. We have those fluctuations of the mind. And then in the distance, we see the peace, we see the temple. I am in a tempest. All thought is an uragan in my mind space. I believe that we can learn to listen if we endure. And it's through that practice. And I think one of the key words here is practice. What is the practice called? It's called, sorry, I'm still healing. My mind is a little bit foggy from my illness last week. Antarmon. Antarmon is the process. So what we do in the practice of yoga, this is a meditational practice where you sit and you actually listen to the noise. You focus on the noise. You focus on the noise outside. So the neighbors may be making noise of one or another with voices or lawn tools or something. The garbage truck may be going by, and you focus on these noises. And you bring yourself from sound to sound to sound. And then you come in closer. and you listen to the sounds in the room. Perhaps you hear the lights buzzing, or the dog is snoring, or something, right? And then you come closer, and you come closer and listen to the sounds of your own breath, the sound of your own heartbeat. Perhaps you have a little bit of tinnitus and you're listening to all of your bodily sounds inside your head. And you just focus, you listen, and you listen. And the more you listen, the easier it is to move towards silence and calmness. And so this is indeed a practice. And so my affirmation here is that it is only through the practice of stillness that I will know stillness and reap the gifts of stillness. Let's go to some of your comments. Part of what Lydiane is referring to here is you can use this as the movie screen metaphor. And the idea is to observe the thought and then watch it float away. And then you observe the next thought and watch it float away. And so it's in the release. The practice is in releasing the thought. Observe and release. Observe and release. So we don't hold on to any one thing for too long. That's funny, Donna. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, so let's write a few affirmations for this Nine of Swords. When the world is at its noisiest, I close my eyes and come to my center. When the world is at its noisiest, I close my eyes and come to my center. Bonfire. I'm sure some of you know the card that Donna's referring to here. That's beautiful, Janet. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So may you all know that level of peace and have the discipline to practice it so that you may know it. So now I'd like to go to the Lovers. This is the Lovers card that I chose from Soul Cards. So this is in my personal deck. This is the Lovers from Tarot of the Strange Branches. And this is the Lovers card from the Numinous Tarot. And while there are many different ways to experience this sixth arcanum, I have to say that when I think of the Tree of Life, when I think of the union of the Divine Feminine and the Divine Masculine, when I look at all of these cards here, there is something very comforting about knowing oneself. Those of you that have the patience to sit with me on Tuesdays to do readings and listen to some of the conversations I have with people about love and love questions, the card in the center here just seems fundamental, and it's almost like I would like to have this card, like an additional copy of this card, just so I could have it out and to share this with people, so that just pictorially I could explain the importance of loving oneself. Okay, so let's go to Elizabeth. I am free to choose. All right. Lydiane, by choosing the other, I choose myself too. And I think the language is really difficult here, because a lot of, you'll know, right? People think that I will complete myself in a relationship, but it's not. That's not what this is about. It's about something much greater than that. You already are complete. And it's about the power of being together that is so, so very beautiful. Let's go here to lovely Donna. I am complete, having made the sacred marriage. Hello, Amy. Welcome. Janet, I have a child's joyful heart to love myself. Let's go to D. I am a Gemini, and the lovers are my card. Not a natural archetype for me. Hermit is my natural tendency, but seeing tarot of strange antlers, I understand. Very powerful. When I say namaste, this is what namaste is. Namaste is, I see you. I see your light reflected in my light. My light is your light. And for years, it used to really, I don't know what it was. Maybe I thought it was just a little too woo-woo. This is years ago, and I remember a couple of people who I knew, teachers, who would sign their emails one, or something similar. But that's what this is. This is about one. It is about one. And we are all. We are each. This is, there's also a mantra, Pranamida, Pranamidam. And one of my teachers translates it as 1 + 1 = 1. 1 - 1 = 1. You cannot take away from the whole. You cannot add to the whole, because the whole is whole. And sometimes I have a very difficult time finding adequate words to express. But I honor all that I have and all that is within me. So yeah, exactly, Dee. I am that. All right. That's very deep. Very deep. Okay. Shall we go on? Where shall we go? IJ, maybe this is for you. Idioma. This is one of your cards that has been coming up. So there is Sasarai Bito. I know a lot of people have been deeply affected by Stacia Barrington's Eight of Cups. Here is Sagayan. And this is Tarot of the Abyss. And again, cards of freedom. Cards of I have to say the card in the center. So the card in the center to me is an important part of understanding the Eight of Cups. And in order to understand the Queen of Cups, we need to understand the Eight of Cups. Glad you're here. You go by so many names. So everybody, I just want you to know this dear soul here, whose name is Ijeoma, Ijeoma, also referred to as IJ. And here on her channel name is her initials of her name, I and L. So that's who I'm talking to. So I want to go back to this card here and an understanding of immersing oneself and being so comfortable immersing oneself in the water itself and how important that is for healing and the healing process. Because I know many people who couldn't do this. There is fear of creepy crawlies. There is fear of algae. There is fear of the cold. There's fear of the depth. And it astounds me. It astounds me how burly, strong, seemingly brave souls would never swim in the river or swim in the ocean. So this is a really important card, and it is only through the immersion, the submersion in the water that we know emotional freedom. If we can't dive in, we won't know what it feels like to be emotionally free. I face forward as I make the tough choices for my best. I don't know that song. Sorry, Lydiane. I surrender easily and gracefully to the flow of the divine plan, and I am free. Hannah, ready or not, I unapologetically follow my path, and I accept pain in order to be free. That's funny. Years ago, I was in the White River in Arc with some other people when one of them casually mentioned to watch out for the copperheads. That's funny. And so, yes, of course, there are creatures of the deep. There are creatures in the water that, there's certain waters that we don't want to put our bodies in. We're not going to, we may not survive, but I think this is it's an important consideration. Yeah. So yeah, so this Eight of Cups is a very, very transformational card. And think about as well too how in Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, many of the cards we see the mountain. So what are the two symbols we see? We see the mountain in the background, and often we have eclipse energy. And so, what is it about eclipse energy that is significant here? And how could you affirm that eclipse energy? I'm just wondering. I think I chose. So when I was doing this exercise, was this yesterday? Day before yesterday, I think I chose the Eclipse card in the Divine Muses Tarot, which was this one. We are, I believe, coming up, excuse me, very soon on eclipse season. And if you think of a song, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of songs that speak to eclipse. Yes, this is the one I'm talking of. And this is, okay, so here we go. Let's add another one here. So how does that make you feel when we add eclipse to this? I love that first card. Exactly the moment of freedom for leaving a toxic relationship was cutting the long hair I wore for him. That is when the weight lifted. Yes, Elizabeth, total eclipse of the heart. That's a very powerful song, isn't it? I normalize near-death experiences every day and walk away. And how can we put an adverb on there? How do you walk away? Yes, we might walk away a little shaken, a little raw. And there's something else to that. Oh my goodness. What was that wartime movie? That was such a great movie. I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. That is so funny. Mira, if you're going through hell, keep going. South Pacific. Yes, 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 yes. South Pacific. Oh my goodness, that makes me want to search that up tonight and watch that. That would be hilarious. I would love to watch that movie again. Oh, Hannah, chemotherapy. The eclipse of chemotherapy. Wow. Now that's deep. That is deep. All right. Let's go to another card. Let's do one more. And I think that will kind of have a theme going on here today, don't we? A theme. Okay, I think I would like to go to the Hierophant. And I'd like to talk a little bit about mentors and being spiritually supported by mentors. And how sometimes it is absolutely necessary to have someone else hold space for us, to let someone else shine the light for us so that we can find our way through. And yes, this sounds a little bit hermit-like, but in some aspect, there's a lot of similarities between the fifth and the ninth arcanums. But let's specifically look at the guidance, the teachings, and sometimes the disciplined teachings that are necessary to walk through. And I find this card can be very comforting to reflect on when we do a reading and there are an abundance of fives in a reading, because fives sometimes can feel very debilitating in a reading. And so how about every time, I mean, how many times have you had a reading where there have been 2 or 3 fives that show up in a reading, or you're doing readings multiple times a week and the fives just keep showing up? And I think one of the gifts of the fifth major is that it can help us. It can help us with navigating all of the fives. I know from personal experience, without wise ones, without the shamans, without the gurus, without them, I wouldn't have been able to get where I went. So I honor them. I honor the mentors who have held the space and kept me here so that I can continue to navigate my path. These are powerful people, powerful humans who, and I'm not talking about the shadow of the Hierophant, okay? So this is about a very specific aspect of the Hierophant. And you know, when people say, so let's use the guru concept, for example. So the guru means dispeller of darkness, dispeller of darkness. And the reason for a guru in the human form, is that the truth is we often don't have the strength to do it on our own. This is the expression, when we are ready, the teacher will appear, that kind of thing. And I can't tell you how important these teachers have been to me. And I know some of you, you might laugh when I mention the movie Eat, Pray, Love. And I think about this scene, the Bali part of it, where Elizabeth Gilbert meets Katuk. And we often don't understand the power of the light workers who cross our paths until later on. So I bless every light worker who has ever had the patience to sit, to stay, to be in my presence. I stand on the shoulders of my spiritual giants. Yes, it's often the way, isn't it, Donna? And the more that I think about this, I can hear myself, my naive, egocentric self saying, "You want me to do what? You want me to do what?" And so, what I want to say here is it's so important to trust the wise ones. And what Dee is saying here is so fundamental to the Hierophant experience. However the Hierophant presents themselves. And yes, there is our greatest, our most difficult relationships. Our most difficult relationships are often our greatest teachers. Yeah. Thank you, Ajioma. Sleep well. Sleep well. All right, my friends. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your vulnerability. I want to thank you for sharing. And I want to encourage you to remember this. Remember this way to use the tarot. And this could come up spontaneously, but it may also be the intention for your tarot draw. So as you're shuffling the cards, you say to yourself, may the tarot inspire, and may I find an affirmation to help me navigate through this day. So you're specifically going into your draw with the intention of creating an affirmation. And I suggest that this could be a practice. Okay? This could definitely be a practice. And yes, if you like, we can do this again in a few weeks' time. I'd be happy to pull out some more cards and do this again. There are there's an infinite number of cards we could work with, for sure. So thank you for your support, everyone. And I'll see many of you on Tuesday. Take good care. Enjoy your weekend. And namaste.